I'm Matt Landau from VRMB, and this is Unlocked, Season 9, a special update announcement. This is from myself and Terry Whyte, aka the vacation rental software guy, and it's about the industry favorite Keystone Awards. See, years ago, Terry and I set down this crazy path to assess all the vacation rental software out there and then rank the best of it based on our judgment and insight, and then present our suggestions to vacation rental owners and managers to suggest what tools they should consider based on their unique needs. And a lot of people have been asking us about our 2023 Keystone Awards, and this episode will provide you with everything you need to know. This episode is brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. And we'll be back with normal programming this week with an interview featuring Lauren Madewell of Antebellums, a generational family vacation rental operation in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But until then, here's me and the almost honest to a fault, Terry Whyte. So Terry, every episode this season of the podcast, we are asking people to interpret, what does home runner mean to you? What does it mean to you before we kick off this interview?
Your home runner show that you're premiering at BRMA, is that what you're referring to?
Well, you don't have to be biased about it. What does the word mean to you in general?
Best in the industry, I would say. When I say home runner, it's like hitting a home run.
I like that. You consider yourself a home runner?
I'm doing okay. But I can't compete with Steve Milo. That guy's a prophet.
You're more of a doubles and triples guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Some sneaky little bunts.
Yeah.
Terry, it's been a while since I've talked to you. Catch me up with regards to the hurricane and your destination there of Anna Maria Island.
We were so fortunate there. We escaped a major disaster by less than 40 miles. It's heartbreaking to see what's happening down to the south there in Fort Myers, Sanibel, Captiva. I don't even like to admit it, but it's true, is we have benefited from that almost from the minute the hurricane was over. The devastation down there, people had all these reservations. They have to come back up north now looking for a place to stay. But one thing I do want to emphasize is, although that we are taking a lot of reservations from the Fort Myers area, those people love Fort Myers, Captiva, Sanibel. They are loyal and they're coming back to you guys. They love that area there. So this is just a stop for them.
That's a really nice way of putting it, and that's a great testament to what our colleagues in those destinations have built. What do you kind of escaped this narrowly? Sometimes after narrow escapes, we have different perspectives on things. Is there anything that you're especially happy that you've got in place or that you're going to do differently that thankfully, considering you did not get hit by the hurricane?
I'm going to start paying a lot closer attention to my insurance and the clauses in the insurance and make sure that I probably need to be better insured than what I am right now.
Yeah, insurance is huge, and it's also interesting. There's been Airbnb's been in the news because they're now having issues with how they handled the hurricane, but not on the homeowner or manager side. In this case, it's the guests. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, and I was really surprised. And I dealt quite a bit with Airbnb, and normally, they are the first to really side with the traveler. And in this instance, it really took me by surprise of how they really were empathetic to the supplier and supportive to the supplier as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it is just the story. It's the story, the DNA of having two customers. To a degree, I guess vacation rental managers have those challenges, but you're not a gigantic publicly traded company.
Well, and I do everything I can to ensure my guests that if anything should go wrong, they're 100% protected. I offer two different trip insurance policies, one where you can cancel for 30 different reasons, get a full refund, another where you can cancel for any reason, no questions asked. So I do everything I can to protect my guests, and you just be surprised at how few people take out trip insurance.
Yeah, I would second that. We actually just published last week an episode of an interview that we did several years back with Mike Harrington, who basically learned that lesson through different set of tropical storms. So definitely, if people aren't listening, add that to your stack now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And insurance is, it's probably the biggest revenue source outside of the rental that property managers can leverage. And I'm really surprised the number of people that don't leverage it.
Yeah, well said. Um, that kind of shifts into why we're here on the phone today. Terry, you and I have been collaborating now for many years. In fact, I think it was one of the first times that we were really hanging out in person that the idea of doing research on vacation rental software came about. Do you happen to remember that?
I do, yeah. And I specifically remember, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was when HomeAway introduced Best Match. And that's when I really knew that my business plan was outdated. It wasn't going to work. And I knew I had to leverage technology. And then I started really researching it. And then you were the one that encouraged me to document what I was doing. And that's really how it started.
I think a lot of great vacation rental advisors or consultants or really just subject matter experts begin. It's realizing that you're going to be doing this research for yourself anyway, and you might as well document it so you can make the best decision for your business. But that information might as well also be useful to other people. And so you and I, Terry, kind of grabbed each other's hands and started skipping down this path together. And our original plan was to do as much research into the property management software ecosystem as possible, as our resources would allow, and to share what we found as objectively as possible with vacation rental managers who were all just overwhelmed with the amount of software out there. And what was your feeling, Terry, when we released our first Keystone Awards, which is to say our first summary of that objective research? What was your feeling based on feedback from people who were encountering the information?
It really took me by surprise that the people that had the interest in it, it really took off. I made two calls in 2018 that's exactly what happened. I said track was going to be the future. And I also said host sleeve was the best value for money. That happened. And a lot of things happened concurrently back then. That was when they shut down V12. So a lot of property managers had to move. They were forced to move. They didn't necessarily think that Escapia was the answer. Our research really shone light on it. I really think that the timing was just right. You know, that we had taken a deep dive into it. We had knowledge. We were sharing it. And I just think that so much happened concurrently that it was just perfect timing.
Yeah, the amount of emails we got, for the most part, positive, saying, "This is amazing. Thank you for this advice." I specifically remember an email from Amy Highnote who said, "This is bold." And I don't think I fully grasped what she meant by that. I don't think I realized the hole that we were skipping into at the time, the rabbit hole. We also got some less than positive feedback, some critique. And I like to think we pride ourselves in openly hearing critique, but it opened a whole Pandora's box of like bureaucracy in the industry and feelings and favoritism. You remember any of those?
I sure do. Yeah, yeah. People that can be loyal, especially to, this really started with the PMS, and there's a reason for that because our tech stack revolves around the PMS. That's the most important part. But then how it morphed into like all things tech and not just the PMS. So that's probably one of the most things I'm proud of is how it moved past the PMS.
And we were always kind of first to say this is not, um, you know, academic level research. This is merely our best attempt at providing some transparency on what's otherwise a terribly confusing and oblique marketplace. But we inevitably got pushback from people and from companies who didn't like the fact that we were attempting to at least put all of this information that we were finding in a box. And we heard plenty of resistance, but I think the positive feedback was overwhelming and kept us going. And that was kind of when we released the property management software selector tool, which was designed to compile all the research that we were doing. We would do demos with property management softwares. We would rank certain features on our own scale. We would then compile how well that software was doing at that feature into a matrix. And then we use this tool called Qualtrics, the famous Qualtrics, dun, 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 which is like I think it's just an enterprise level um, sort of survey and scoring tool. But it allowed us to take all of that information that was within the matrix and start serving our best suggestions in an automated way based on a little algorithm that we built to property managers based on their priorities. So if somebody said that trust accounting was really important to them because they lived in a trust accounting state, we would not have the algorithm ever serve them a software that didn't have trust accounting.
I think it was our biggest accomplishment.
It was massive because when we released that tool, suddenly, I think to a great degree, we had scaled our knowledge. We had scaled the amount of advice that we were giving on one-off basis in a way that was pretty much unlimited, right?
And there's nothing else like it in the industry. Like, sure, you can go to Capterra, but you're going to learn nothing there. But yeah, it was. That's the proudest part of what we've accomplished.
Yeah, and it was free to anybody who wants to use it. And we're going to touch on that in just a moment as potentially one of our oversights. But one of the things I was also very proud of about that tool was being very transparent about how the tool worked. And we tried to be as clear as possible that we were not the de facto truth. Rather, we were a small group of people who were doing objective research, doing real demos, taking real notes, being as honest as possible. We began taking in input from active users of said software. How well do you like this feature? Would you recommend it to a friend? We were always trying to do our best about being forthcoming of that. We were doing our best, but what we're actually serving to you as a suggestion is merely that. It's a suggestion. It's something that we think you might want to take a look at, as opposed to you must use this tool or we are recommending this tool, because that has a whole other set of baggage, right, Terry?
Exactly. One thing I could say though, apart from the PMS, is like I've done more demos probably than anybody on the PMS, but a lot of the other softwares that we rated and demoed and stuff like that, I had either used, I think I've used or have used every single one of them. So it was more than just just doing a little bit of research. You really don't know until you use it, And I think I've used pretty much every software that's available.
And the compiling of input from other members of VRMB communities who are using those tools, we were very confident in our recognition of these softwares, to say the very least. And that was kind of when we planned and then launched the second round of Keystone Awards, which were still the first true independent dive into vacation rental software. And as Terry just hinted at, we included in this second round third-party softwares. That is to say, property management software as the core pillar, but there's this incredible dynamic space of third-party tools that plug into it. And we started recognizing some of those. And what, Terry, was your reaction to the results of that awards ceremony?
Um, it's really surprised me how all these suppliers, these vendors, how they leveraged that Keystone Award. When they won, well, you just go on their website now. They still to this day from 2018, they still display it on their website, and they're very proud of that award. As far, I'm really really proud that our research went past the PMS, and it was all things technology. So I think that was a great accomplishment for us. And it really shone a light on our industry, on tech in our industry. I think we did more research on it, and then there was so many voices in our industry now, like Matt's, your podcast, Amy Highnote, Heather Bear, all those people. The voice was there to to present it to the population, to the vacation rental managers. And I just think that our research, as well as the voices out there in our industry, has made a huge difference in technology in our sector.
Yeah, it was really kind of eye opening for me to see what we had considered this kind of hobby side project of help, don't sell. Let's just give away our information as opposed to trying to sell people on something. It was really enlightening about how the reception of how people took to that kind of information. And the natural next step would be to build on this wonderful momentum, to create another Keystone Awards 2022, to expand our research team, to enhance our property management software selector tool. But what's the news that we have to share with everybody today, Mr. Whyte?
We are going to sunset this. It's just the time is right for this. Our research, I personally don't have the time, to do this anymore. And I think we've shone enough light on the industry here that I don't really think that there's a huge future in this.
I like how you pronounce the word shined.
Yeah. We have, I think we have made a tremendous impact in technology wise in our industry, so I'm proud of that.
Yeah, Terry and I had ongoing conversations the entire time. And this challenge, as Amy put it, was bold. It was very ambitious. And the amount of time it took to do that work was immense. And the return to us for that work was, by comparison, almost non existent. And this is why I have you here today, Terry, both to announce that we are officially retiring the Keystone Awards research program, but also to share a lesson that we've learned respectively in the process, and how folks who are listening who want to continue this property management software and vacation rental software research, some next steps that they can take. But I'd like to start off with one of my big lessons, and that is, no matter how big your heart is, no matter how generous you are, help, don't sell has its limits. And for those who don't know the phrase help, don't sell, it's a marketing mantra that I have been repeating for many years. And the idea is that we as small businesses can give away valuable information in order to build trust and respect with our customers, so that when they cross the bridge that falls into your subject matter domain, they will come to you because you have given them the valuable information ahead of time. The reciprocity goes a long way. And I still love help, don't sell. It will still always be front and center in almost everything that I do, but it has its limits. And you can only be so generous without a monetization plan. And that's perhaps the layer beneath that I'm really taking away from this, is that if you're going to do something this significant, this bold, you need to have a clear plan to monetize it. And you need to know what kind of costs go into creating it. And you need to have a plan for how you can not only cover the costs of this work, but make money so that it's a sustainable thing, so that you can continue justifying your time and attention on the project as opposed to other projects that you have going on, because both Terry and I have several of them. So for me, my big lesson is help, don't sell has its limits. So long as you have a monetization plan in place, be generous within reason. And that's something I plan on taking to my future projects. It's something I learned from the Keystone Awards. It was a huge achievement, but also a huge reality check that these are two things that are critical to the sustainability of an initiative. What about you, Terry? What lesson in the last couple of years? I know you've spawned a private consulting practice out of this research. What has been your big lesson?
Um, like you said there, but I think we should tell the whole story too. Is um, when this started, this was your idea. Never was a plan. It was, you said to me after we did, the awards there, or we did our research, and you said, wouldn't it be nice if we just gave a little bit of recognition to some of the companies? And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then, so that's really how it started. It was really, and then I think we should also tell, when we built that property management selector tool, that cost us personally a lot of money,
Yeah.
but a lot of money, and we did it. We didn't charge for it, and I think the only regret that I have there is that we allowed vendors to leverage our Keystone Awards for personal gain, and it didn't cost them a cent. So that's the only thing. As far as giving it away for free, it costs us money. I really don't care, but you know the vendors, I think we should have had a better plan for that. But again, there never was a plan. The Keystone Awards were just like, hey, do you like this idea? Yeah. And then it took off. It had so much respect. And really, it's a tribute to you, the respect that you have in the industry, that it took off, the way it did, because it really wasn't an awards program, plan, anything like that.
And I love the plan because it
Yeah.
also applies to so many vacation rental companies. We start it because it seems like a fun idea. And we keep doing more of it because it's a fun idea. And then suddenly you get to some point, you're like, wait a minute, I didn't even start with a plan here. Where am I?
Yeah, it came out. It just came out of nowhere. It was just giving people some recognition for doing a great job here, and that's basically how the whole thing started. And it took off so big, and to this day, it is still a big deal, because I get people calling me and emailing me saying, "Hey, when's the next Keystone Awards?" And then I've got all these vendors. I personally gained from this, because these property management software companies and these other companies, they say, hey, can we demo our software? Sure. We want to show you what we've accomplished in the last 6 months, what we're working on. I think you really like this. And I know it all related to the Keystone Awards. They wanted a Keystone Award.
That sounds like a nightmare to me.
Oh, for me, I like it. Like
I know
when
you
people
do.
want to show me, and it gives me the inside knowledge in the industry of what's going on too, but again, it all related to the Keystone Awards and how big it was, and it took off.
And now a word from our sponsors. Point Central provides smart property solutions for smart vacation property managers. They help streamline operations, protect the property, and enhance the guest experience using keyless access. Why? Because guests are tired after traveling, duh. And being able to go directly to that property with keyless access instead of stopping at a manager's office, this is no longer a luxury. This is a standard practice. Plus, everybody loves avoiding extra trips due to lost keys, not to mention the constant cost of rekeying. Point Central partners stay aware with an activity log of who enters and leaves the property, which helps keep track of cleaning and maintenance crews as well. You can also gain control of your utility bills with their smart thermostats. Schedule set points so guests won't be able to drastically raise or lower the temperatures, for instance. You can ensure the temperature stays consistent when the unit is vacant. Prevent costly maintenance projects caused by water leaks, mold, or HVAC issues with real-time alerts that allow you to be proactive. Visit pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. And Breezeway, whose property care and operations platform helps you coordinate, communicate, and verify the detailed work and deliver the best service experience to your guests. With tools for intelligent task scheduling, quality assurance, real-time work coordination, guest messaging, supplies management, owner reporting, and more, oh my. Breezeway helps thousands of short-term rental managers and hospitality operators increase your operational efficiency and eliminate hours of manual work. This allows you to boost your service revenue. It was created by the founding team of FlipKey, which was since acquired by TripAdvisor, and Breezeway is just elevating the experience at every property they touch. Visit breezeway.io/VRMB and get implementation fees waived. That's a $1,000 value right there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Yeah, and I think in hindsight, if we had a kind of a hybrid of your lesson and mine, if we had a clearer idea of how to monetize our research, with the core stakeholders who could afford it, because there also may have been some way to monetize the research with property managers, right?
Right. Yeah.
If we had thought that through and figured out a more sustainable path there, I think it was our unclarity, our lack of pointed, confident plan that led to the vendors not valuing it. And we did try. We did try in the second Keystone Awards. We came up with a way that we thought might be nice to fund some of the research. And we said to all of the winners, you're a winner. Congratulations. You're getting a little media kit saying that you're a winner. If you'd like to upgrade your media kit, we have some additional graphics and interviews that we can do. And for whatever reason, those didn't sell either. And I think it must have just been the presentation of the information. Maybe it was just a bad idea. Like almost like, oh, these guys gave me an award and now they're charging me to really get the most out of it. There might have been something psychological going on there. But I do think a clarity in what the product is and how it's sold and how it's monetized and sticking with it was something that we could do better next time. Agreed.
Yeah, you're right. And then, but a lot of them were already leveraging our first year of the Keystone Awards. So in subsequent years, they already had the award. So why pay for it?
Yeah. Well, for those folks, you have a very limited edition award there because unfortunately we won't be doing any more of them. But that doesn't mean that we haven't decided to really preserve a lot of the hard work that we've done that is still as relevant as ever. We have two paths for listeners who would like to continue. One path is one path is using Terry. Terry continues to do this work with managers on a one-by-one basis. Do you like that kind of work much more than the research stuff?
I like the research better. You know, I do. Yeah, I like taking a deep dive into technology, and then when I do my consulting, I have that knowledge. I can just identify the weakness and where to go. Yeah, just almost instantly before the meeting even starts. They send me a checklist. You know what their biggest pain points are. Before it even starts, I pretty much know. You know where we're going with this.
This would make you a good cage fighter.
I can read it pretty quickly. You know.
So that's one option, folks. I've sent plenty of people who ask me for software advice directly to Terry. You can learn more about his hourly consulting or his basically pack in which he walks you through the property management software and more broadly vacation rental software selection process on his website, vacationrentalsoftwareguy.com. Another way that you can get the information is we've compiled all of our research and all of our articles and all of our discussions on the matter, and we've put a name on it. We're calling it the Essential Guide to Property Management Software. And that is a structured program that we've set up almost like a little course inside of VRMB communities. You can head over to community.vrmb.com, and on the top, you'll see structured programs. That's where the Essential Guide to Property Management Software pack is located. That is, I think, a really proud asset that we have created in this journey, and it's still as relevant as ever if you are considering trying out a new property management software. There are some new ones that have broken into the scene, but I would say for the most part, we did all the heavy lifting on the research. Would you agree, Terry?
Well, sure, yeah, and we sure did. And I hope people that are listening, the takeaway from this too is it's not just the property management; it's the core, it's the foundation. But I think you have to take consideration all things tech when you're running your business now. It's much more than just the PMS.
Yeah, indeed. So that includes things like the evolution of the modern vacation rental manager. That was the 3-part series we did. The satisfaction gap. Those were the features that people wanted, but are sort of missing on the marketplace. The recommendation dilemma. Would you recommend this software to a friend? The agile approach on how to build the ultimate tech stack. The cheat sheet to use when you go up and do a demo. These are all still awesome, awesome resources. The video snippets from our roundtable discussions, like does an all-in-one property management software even exist, and what to know before deciding on one. This is like a vault of software insight. So do consider investing in that if you're at that crossroads yourself. And then I also might as well share, Terry, the word Keystone lives on. We've hosted our first ever Keystone retreat. That is a small group retreat for vacation rental leaders designed to solve some of the deeper problems and form some of the relationships that are a little bit rushed in normal conferences. So we'll be hosting another Keystone retreat, an extension of Terry, you're in my collaborative spirit in February. I think, Terry, we will have you there as well. And that's, if nothing else, a tribute to this work together. You are somebody who has such a big heart, and I am too. And I kind of got us into this mess. But it's been quite a journey of ups and downs and discoveries and lessons. And throughout the entire thing, I can always count on you to be objective, to shoot straight, and to be practical in your decision making. And it's been quite a neat thing. And I look forward to continuing that for many years to come.
One of the best things that ever happened to me was joining the VR, your Keystone, or no, the Inner Circle. No one would ever heard about me if it wasn't for you. So I really want to thank you for that. I've learned so much for just being an Inner Circle member. That's really where it started. It's really where our research started. We never shared it outside of the Inner Circle until one day you said, "Hey, maybe we should take this outside the Inner Circle." So I've got a lot to be thankful for too.
Well, the feeling is mutual, and the whole private community is based on this idea that most vacation rental owners and managers are innovators, and they're doing incredible things without any plans. In a lot of cases, we're getting better, but they're doing remarkable things, solving really hard challenges, and we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice if we're not sharing with one another how to do it and how your experience was. And the more you share, the more of a subject matter you become, the better you get at explaining things. And on average, the more you know than your local competitor. So for me, cultivating thought leaders and encouraging folks to share their best practices, their subject matter expertise. Terry, you're a perfect example of that because you were already doing the work. Now you just started sharing it. And I think your success is a direct indicator of that.
Yeah, Matt, there's something I want to say here too is I don't think as an industry we give ourselves enough credit from where we came from 4 years ago and where we are now. I think there's a 0% chance that the next 4 years are going to be more exciting than the last 4 years as far as technology goes. Still to this date, the number one question I get asked is, can you explain what you mean by distribution? So people to this day still don't even understand channel management, but we have come so far, like with revenue management, with distribution, with house cleaning, with everything involved. We came out of nowhere really, and we have accomplished a tremendous amount. And I don't think people are giving themselves enough credit for what they've learned in the last 4 years.
Well said. And how do we do that? Do we celebrate the high points or what?
Yeah, I think, I don't like all this talk about, there's got to be this amalgamation, this roll up, of this. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, but this feeling that people don't realize how far we've came in the last 4 years, and we should be talking more about it, and celebrating what we've accomplished.
And maybe gaining some confidence in that
Yeah, for
intel,
sure.
that IP.
We're doing a really good job, and just look at revenue management. Like, we're just only touching on it right now, even though we're 4 years into it. Even though there's conferences now dedicated strictly to revenue management, we're only touching the tip of the iceberg right now. We really don't know a lot about it yet, except you have to have it, and we're learning every day.
And it's interesting, Terry. I think it sometimes can get discouraging to think, wait a minute, you're telling me I have to learn about this whole new category of tools, and there's going to be a young whippersnapper who understands it much more quickly, who's just getting started, who's going to wield all this power over me. One thing I wanted to share with you is this little discovery I made lately, and it has to do with the film world. As you mentioned, we'll be having the Home Runners premiere in Las Vegas on the 23rd of October. Terry, will you be there?
I'm sure will. I have my tickets.
Okay, excellent. You and Sandy?
Yes, we'll both be
Okay.
there.
So that's a huge milestone for me. It's our first docu-series episode to go behind the scenes, the world's leading vacation rental managers. But what a lot of people don't know is that whole story of creating films and shows started many years ago when I was approached by a TV production studio. And they said, we'd like to jump on the vacation rental bandwagon. They didn't actually say that, but we'd like for you to be the host of our makeover show on cable TV. And my initial instinct was, wow, I'm ready. But upon thinking about it, I realized that having some reality TV producers control my brand and own my narrative was probably not the best thing, as I was just beginning to figure out who I was. And I passed on the opportunity and was confronted soon thereafter by a colleague who said, if you're not going to do something like that, that by all standards is breaching new echelons of success, if you're not going to do a show like that, you need to decide what kind of show you do want to do. And I was like, oh, let me go think on that. And I eventually came up with this idea of doing a travel show to showcase members of our community and to meet their destinations through their properties. And that travel show set me off on this whole research mission, kind of like you and I did with software, into the world of film. What does it take to be successful in creating shows or movies and getting them distributed? And I promise now I'm getting back to the lesson of this story. I found one quote to be more powerful than any others, and it came from Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, I believe. And he said, as the whole media landscape was changing and traditional television began to give way to streaming and all these other new devices, he said, one thing I always believed was that quality branded IP is the holy grail. And by quality branded IP, he meant the shows and the movies and the brands that Disney had acquired that had been done so exceptionally well, were so unique, were branded, people recognized them from a mile away and showed up to watch the next show or the next movie, would pay good money, and then was IP, intellectual property. That was something nobody else could have. They owned it. And I really loved that sentiment that no matter who you are, quality branded IP gives you all the power. And I bring that back now to our space and our colleagues after this huge deep dive into software and the consolidation and the money that's flowing into our industry and all this change. I look at the winners, the people who have the Holy Grail, as those who have quality branded hospitality operations.
You couldn't have said it better.
And if you have those three things, if you're working on being better and serving a quality experience to your guests and your homeowners, if you're branding that experience, and if you have developed the intellectual property of how to operate a hospitality business, not a technology business, a hospitality operation, if you've got those three things, you have the Holy Grail. Nobody can infiltrate on that asset that you have built, those three pillars. And I hear you talking about all that we've accomplished as independent owners and managers over the years. That is exactly what it is. So don't lose sight of that, right?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just glad you're still here. I'm glad listeners are still on. Perhaps they've turned off already, but that was my rant for the morning. Terry, I will see you and Sandy in Las Vegas. Thank you for all of this, Terry, for your honesty, your big heart, and your lessons that you have learned. This has been a fun episode.
I'm proud to call you a friend. I look forward to seeing you again.
That conversation was cathartic in some way. My big takeaway from this discussion, and really all the work that I have done together with Terry, is that as pioneers in any field, and that goes for every one of our listeners in our industry, you have to take risks at times. You have to gamble, not on something that has been carefully modeled out over time, something that has a clear monetization strategy. Sometimes it's worth taking the gamble on something intangible, just because you feel like it's the right thing to do. And indeed, sometimes those gambles pay off big time. Those are the big leaps that move you and your business forward. However, of course, sometimes, in fact, more often than not, those gambles or experiments fail. And you can look at that failure however you want, but learning lessons and recognizing that some project or test's time has come to gracefully close the door on a chapter and to take everything that you've learned forward. That is a beautiful thing. And that requires removing emotion in a lot of ways, having real, pragmatic discussions, and asking yourself, is this going the way I expected? And if it is, you're on the right path. If it is not, perhaps now is a good time to change. I wanted to thank Terry for his patience and generosity over the years. If there's anything he's guilty of, it's giving away his wonderful advice over time. If you'd like to follow up and use Terry's consulting services in choosing your own property management software, you can reach out to him. His website is vacationrentalsoftwareguy.com. His sessions are worth their weight in gold. And if you want to invest in the Essential Guide to Property Management Software that we mentioned on the call, that is a compilation of all of our research findings from the Keystone Awards dating back several years. It is a fantastic first place to begin your next property management software move. And you can find that information at community.vrmb.com/structured-learning. You can also find that link in the show notes so you don't have to remember. Until next time.